Shalom. Yes, giving our praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Harakakwadash, double honors to all the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and the house of David is rising. I'm going to bring you a couple of these updates or aftermaths of some of these judgments. And this one is death toll from Indonesia earthquake rises to 260. Been checking out some of the things that's been happening on a global scale on some of these channels here. Some of them are in the mainstream, some of them not, but this is the year of turn up, and yes, Yahweh Yahushai is doing their thing. They're doing their thing. Judgments is going out fast and furious. So without further ado, let's see what's going in the spirit, catching up on some of these judgments that have been going out. 260 they're saying so far. Let's check it out. Oh, and this is from ABC News.
Rescue operations underway in Indonesia after a devastating earthquake that left at least 260 people dead and more than 1,000 injured. Our chief foreign correspondent Ian Panel has the latest for us. And Ian, officials fear that the death toll could rise significantly.
Yeah, that's right. Good morning, Michael. Hundreds are dead, as you say, more than 1,000 injured. Tens of thousands of people have been displaced, and that's right. Officials fear that those numbers could get even worse. Even now, rescue efforts are ongoing, and it's feared that many of the dead could be public school students who were at school at the time when buildings started to collapse. That's according to local officials. There are also reports that hospitals in the region have been overwhelmed with patients. Apparently, some of them were even forced to lie in tents outside awaiting further treatment. Thousands of people, of course, spent the night outside, many of them fearing that there could be aftershocks. Aid has now started to arrive in the area, though, including food, tents, blankets, and other supplies. The 5.6 magnitude earthquake hit Monday on Indonesia's main island of Java. And one of the reasons it's been so devastating is that it was relatively shallow, and in many cases, the local infrastructure just isn't strong enough to withstand the kind of earthquakes that happen in this area. Michael?
All right, Ian Panel, thank you so much.
Yes, man. Judgment's going out fast and furious. They're saying was that 1,000 injured so far. Oh, magnitude 6 earthquake. 200 people dead. About 60 still missing. 150 still missing. Alright, so there's judgments going out, man. You know, we're just gonna go briefly through some of these judgments in the year of turn up. It's been a long time since I've done any videos on these judgments. Oh, here's another one. This is from WCNC News. Planes been dropping out the sky. There's a couple of them. There's quite a few. We're going to see a couple of them. Bring out a couple of these. Fly judgments or surgical strikes.
We do have another interview that our crew there on scene was able to get. Take a listen.
My impression was that he apparently knew he was in trouble, and he circled looking for a place to put that down. And on the second circle, I don't think he had any choice. It was going down, and he got it just off the highway and avoided it. Could have injured a lot of people, and the pilot avoided that. So it's a tragic thing, but in that sense, I think he did a marvelous job.
What was going through your mind when you was watching this?
What the heck is going on? I mean, you look at something like that. I almost took my phone out and started videoing. At the first pass looked very aggressive for a news service. It's like, man, there's something he really wants to shoot. I mean, he's really banking that helicopter around to get a shot of something. But then on his second pass, I knew that something was not right. I mean, that's, he's not going to do that steeply, and he just continued that steep bank until boom, he disappeared and bang, out of sight. I didn't hear anything, didn't make any explosion or flames or crash of that sort, but when I saw it disappear, it's like, that's serious. That's not a good thing.
You alluded to this earlier, but you said that he probably, with the landing where he landed on the bank right there, he probably saved a lot of lives.
I think that he absolutely saved a lot of lives, and like I said, I don't, you never know what's in somebody's head, but I think that he absolutely knew that he was going to have to put that down, and he did his best to put it down. I say he, it might have been a woman pilot, I don't know, but whoever the pilot was did their best, I think, to put that down where they weren't going to injure a lot of people. And in that respect, they did a fabulous job because there's no, they didn't hit anybody else. They just, destroyed the helicopter and did whatever damage to whoever was inside. I knew.
So the two dead in helicopter crash, man. So if you think the Most High ain't doing his thing, man, I'm gonna entitle this video "Let the Games Begin." Let the games begin. Judgments are going out like hotcakes. Zephaniah chapters 3 and 5. The just Lord is in the midst thereof. He will not do iniquity every morning. Doth he bring his judgments to light? He faileth not, but the unjust knoweth no shame. And there's a precept that says, the wicked do not know judgment. They do not understand judgment. They don't realize they're being judged. But when they get up in the heavens, when they've kicked the bucket, the Most High, they definitely know they've been judged then. When they're in front of the so-called black man, yeah, brown skin man, which you people call God, Yahweh, yeah, which means He is. So they don't know they're being judged while they're on the earth, but when they go up there in front of the Almighty God, Yahweh, they get the message. The Most High fills them in on all the wicked that they've done. Here's another interesting one, another surgical strike. This one I found quite interesting, which made me say, let me go in on this one and do a video. U.S. military plane forced to turn around to midway after bird strike. Now, if that don't sound like a surgical strike, man, I don't know what else.
We start here at 10 with a breaking news update video just into the newsroom. Shows the moment a U.S. Air Force plane strikes a flock of birds and was forced to land. Take a close look at the video. You'll see the spark from the left engine there. Chopper 2 spotted air crewmen inspecting the plane on the runway. The extent of the damage is unclear. At this point, no one was hurt, and the plane was able to turn around and land safely. The plane is part of a fleet that flies out of Joint Base Andrews to support government missions. Alright,
you hear that? That's a military plane forced to turn around by a flock of birds. A military plane. And they're supposed to be all so powerful, the military, the American military. And they was forced to turn around, forced to retreat by a flock of, a flock of birds. So let's look at this, man. I want to look at this precept here. Who's really in control of the air? Let's read this. Psalm 104. Who covereth thyself with light as with a garment, who stretcheth out his heavens. 104 and 2. I'm going to start from 1. It says, Bless the Lord, O my soul, O Lord my God, thou art very great. Thou art clothed with honor and majesty. Yeah, who? I'm going to ask the question. Who is in control of the airspace? Is it you, the American military? Or is it, I'll carry on reading, as it describes here in 2. Who covereth thyself with light as with a garment, who stretch out the heavens like a curtain. So that's the Most High. He's the one who's in control of the military. He's in control of the airspace. What you call your airspace is not your airspace. Bless, O Lord, the soul of my God, thou art very great. Thou art clothed with honor and majesty, who covereth thyself with light, with a garment, who stretch out the heavens like a curtain, who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the winds of the wind, of the wings of the wind. Yeah, and the chariots, they're always there, whether you can see them or not. They're there. They can cloak themselves, make themselves look like clouds. And it was last week while I was on the trails doing my exercise routine, and I just look up. I looked behind me, and all I saw was some flashing lights. And I did mention it in the video that I was doing. I mentioned it, and for some reason, I wasn't able to film it. Well, I know the reason. It was for my eyes only, but this was a big one. You just saw flashing lights. You saw it behind the clouds, as it says here in 3. Who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind. So it was a chariot, as it says there, walketh upon the wings of the wind. and they can cloak or they can shape shift, cloak themselves, hide behind the cloud, or shape shift, appear in different forms and shapes and different kind of. I saw it. It actually shape shift behind the clouds. It was going into a circular motion. The lights behind the cloud was going into a circular motion, and this was no small little orb. And then it switched and it went into another circular motion, clockwise and then anti-clockwise motion, and then it changed total shape altogether of the light. The lights behind the clouds change shape altogether. So I was just in awe. In 4 now it says, who maketh his angels spirits his ministers a flaming fire. So I find this interesting because it says that a flock of birds here. who you think was the flock of birds? It could have been shape-shifting chariots, or the Most High can just control them, because he controls the birds, he controls all the beasts, just control their minds and just send them to the plane, just to let the pilot get shook and turn back. And that's exactly what happened. So he maketh his angel spirits his ministers a flaming fire, who laid the foundation of the earth, that it should not be removed forever. And it goes on describing how great and how he deserves honor. That Yahweh is great and he deserves honor, and he's in control of your airspace, of the earth, of the animals. We're going to be in league with the animals too, and we're his children, the so-called black people that you love to hate. Now this was interesting, and there's a lot of others as well. There's one in Dallas, 2 planes doing a show, some kind of show, airplane show, and 2 planes collided. And I always said straight away that was a judgment, and that was the Most High using either controlling their cockpit, their electronics, or the chariots control, because they can do that. They can control the electronics of the plane and just make them fall, cut out, and just crash into each other, or the chariots just guiding them. He can do anything he wants, man. He's the Most High in control. He's him bring that judgments. So these are a lot of judgments that take place. Plane strike. Here's another one. Another interesting one. And this is ABC News. Bird strike forces emergency landing of U.S. Air Force plane.
With the alarming moment in the air.
And how long ago was this? Oh, this is 1 day ago. This was 1 day ago. This was 2 days ago. This one was a day ago. See, these happen in just a couple of days, man. 2 days ago, 1 day ago, within this week. So the Most High is turning up. This is the year of turn up. Let's check out the last one, and then we're going to hit some precepts.
In Chicago, a plane hitting a flock of birds, a top U.S. military official on board, and we know the danger of bird strikes, but rarely do we see it this clearly. The Air Force C-37 taking off from Chicago, hitting the birds right there. You could see smoke from the engines, reports of sparks flying, the plane making an immediate landing right back at the airport. On board, General Daniel Hokanson, a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and ABC's Stephanie Ramos leading us off tonight.
Tonight, the dramatic moment, this Air Force C-37 with the United States of America emblem painted on its side, carrying one of the nation's top military officials forced to land after hitting a flock of birds shortly after takeoff.
See how easy it is carrying one of the top U.S. air officials. That's how easy it is. For the Most High just sends a flock of birds. Let me say that again, man. And then we're going to end off the video.
Do we see it this clearly? The Air Force C-37 taking off from Chicago, hitting the birds right there. You could see smoke from the engines, reports of sparks flying, the plane making an immediate landing right back at the airport. On board, General Daniel Hokanson, a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and ABC's Stephanie Ramos leading us off tonight.
Tonight, the dramatic moment, this Air Force C-37 with the United States of America emblem painted on its side, carrying one of the nation's top military officials forced to land after hitting a flock of birds shortly after takeoff. The jet departing Chicago's Midway Airport last night.
Yeah, this is the same one, but it gives a bit more details on this one.
You can see it here, taxiing on the runway. Then, seconds after takeoff, flying directly into the flock of more than a dozen birds, the engine beginning to smoke after impact. The crew calling into the tower.
We're going to be coming back. We just took a bunch of birds on takeoff.
First responders meeting the plane back on the tarmac. On board, General Daniel Hokanson, head of the National Guard and a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The 89th Airlift Wing saying the crew of the C-37 safely returned to the airport out of an abundance of caution, and there were no injuries.
The problem
This time around, the Most High spared you. He's just letting you know how easy it is. He's just letting you know how easy it is to do his thing. Surgical strike. That could have easily been one of the lasers from the chariots if he wanted it to. But he sent a little flock of birds, some of his most harmless creatures, and that shook you and made you go back round and touch down on the ground. Who is it? Official US Air Force plane carrying member of Joint Chief. Right, dramatic bird strike forces landing. Who's this guy? Who's this guy?
General Daniel Hokanson, head of the National Guard, came back on the tarmac. On board, General Daniel Hokanson, head
General Daniel Hokanson turns back with a story to tell. A little bit shook, as you can see there. General Hokanson, head of the
National Guard,
National Guard,
and a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The 89th Airlift Wing saying the crew of the C-37 safely returned to the airport out of an abundance of caution, and there were no injuries.
The problem for the pilots is that this is a very critical timed flight. The airplane has very little energy. It's trying to climb away from the ground, and to ingest a flock of birds into one or both engines can cause a loss of an engine or sometimes even a loss of both engines.
Wildlife strike incidents like this one are on the rise and can be dangerous. More than 12,000 have been reported to the FAA this year alone. Tonight, the 89th Airlift Wing says the incident is under investigation. General Hokanson remained in Chicago.
What are you going to do? Investigate the birds? Most I just send you a little surgical strike, a little warning messages for you guys, man. You know, letting you know just how easy it is. So I'm going to title this video, Let the Games Begin. Let the games begin.
FAA this year alone. Tonight, the 80 more than 12,000 have been reported to the FAA this year alone.
More than 12,400 incidents reported in 2022 alone. Right, surgical strikes, warnings to you military. Right, chief, a member of the Joint Chief. You see how easy it is to just pick you off? Just so easy.
Daniel Hokanson, head of the National Guard and a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The 89th Airlift Wing saying the crew of the C-37 safely returned to the airport out of an abundance of caution, and there were no injuries.
The problem for the pilots is that this is a very critical timed flight. The airplane has very little energy. It's trying to climb away from the ground, and to ingest a flock of birds into one or both engines can cause a loss of an engine or sometimes even a loss of both engines.
Wildlife strike incidents like this one are on the rise and can be dangerous. More than 12,000 have been reported to the FAA this year alone. Tonight, the 89th Airlift Wing says the incident is under investigation. General Hokanson remained in Chicago overnight, returning to D.C. today aboard another military aircraft. David.
All right, Steph.
The problem for the pilots is that this is a very critical timed flight. The airplane has very little energy. It's trying to climb away from the ground.
Reported to the FAA.
All right, enough said. Isaiah 61. We'll hit a couple of precepts to end off the video. So we just seen some earthquakes, judgments in Indonesia, US military, two people dead in a plane or helicopter crash, fatal, and we see a little warning, a surgical strike. So these are things that we just seeing on the horizon, things or little tasters, the little appetizers for what is about to come in the earth. So let the games begin. Isaiah 61 and 8 says, For the Lord loveth judgments and hate robbery, for burnt offering, and I will direct their work in truth, and I will make an everlasting covenant with them. So that's what we want here. The Lord loveth judgments, and he will laugh at you. He will laugh. He's laughing right now. As a matter of fact, that's a nice scripture to end the video on. Here's another one in Psalms 37 and 28. For the Lord loveth judgments, and forsaketh not his saints. They are preserved forever, but the seed of the wicked shall be cut off. As we get in the theme of this video, the Lord loveth judgments. And it's just so easy. He can just toy with your plane by sending a flock of birds to get you to turn right around, man, off your mission. And the chief there, Joint Chief, was shook. He was actually shook there himself, man. He came back with a story, and the Most High would be laughing right now. Here we go in Psalms 2 and 4 says, He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh, the Lord shall have them in derision. You think he ain't laughing? And the Most High, he laughs. Yeah? The God you call all love, when he toys with the enemy, belittles the enemy, he laughs. Sends a flock of birds to get you shook, and you turn back. Here we go. And the Lord laughs at that, and I'm laughing too. It's funny.
The Air Force C-37 taking off from Chicago, hitting the birds right there. You could see smoke from the engines, reports of sparks flying, the plane making an immediate landing right back at the airport. On board, General Daniel Hokanson, a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and ABC's Stephanie Ramos leading Chicago, hitting the birds right there.
All right. Giving our praises to Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai, Ba'Hashem Rakakwadash. The water to Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai for giving me the spirit to do this video. Psalms 2 and 4 says, He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh, and the Lord shall have them in derision. Let the games begin. Shalom until the next one.